Hello, I am Nikita, and this is the Yoni Talk Podcast on the Just You Soap Company YouTube channel. The Yoni Talk Podcast is a podcast for women where you can find encouragement, motivation, inspiration, where we talk about family, health, wealth, relationships, and everything concerning women. So today, our episode is sponsored by Just You Soap Company. Just You Soap Company is a natural bath and body product company where they have soap bars, they have body butter, Yoni bars, facial bars, coming up with a line of bath salts, lotion bars. I mean, you name it, they either have it or it's on its way. So if you're interested in anything that they may have, which will nourish and refresh your skin, then be sure to visit them at justyousoapcompany.com. Again, visit them at justyousoapcompany.com. Now that we've got that out of the way, let us get into today's episode. So, today's episode is about caretaking, when the roles change, when children become caretakers of their parents. Being a caretaker of a parent is one of the hardest, most rewarding, challenging things that someone will ever do. Our next guest did it with grace. Her open diary of happenings that she puts on Facebook are heartwarming, entertaining, and she ends them with hashtag y'all ain't praying, to give you a glimpse into the world of what caretaking is. So our guest today is Carmella Kelley. She is an author. She's an associate minister at Mount Gilead Baptist Church. She is a writing coach, which entails not only ghostwriting, but also editing and helping people along their journey of book writing. And also, she is a mother. She's a totally awesome human being, a beautiful woman. And so I introduce to you Carmella Kelley.
Hey, Nikita.
Hello.
Hey, I was like, who is she talking about? She's not talking about me.
I'm talking about you. That's what people really think about you. Sometimes they may not have time to tell it, but that's what they think. That's what they're
Well, thank
thinking.
you.
So
I'm honored.
I thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us today, to talk to us. I think that this is one of the things that a lot of people, men and women, but really women, because most of the times it's women who ends up being what they call a caretaker. When my mother was living with me, sister, and we were, helping her, she towards the part of life she ended up being blind, so she really needed, really a lot of help. But I didn't consider it caretaking because that was my mom.
Right.
For me, so it was only natural. But this is the word that people use to say it. So it's really something though when you end up becoming the caretaker, right? The roles kind of reverse. So I will start out with our conversation today. If you don't mind, if you could tell us about a of becoming a caretaker began.
So, Mama was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2007, I believe it was. And then she was in Cleveland at the time, and my dad passed away in 2009. And so, um, my sister actually took what we consider the first shift. So from 2009 to when she came
Mhm.
down here to me in 2016, my sister really was, living in the home, helping taking care of her. But it was still at that point early stages of her Parkinson's, so she was still very mobile, still doing,
Mhm.
a lot of her normal task. Um, and then when she moved down
Mhm.
here, I bought my home in 2015, and I knew when I bought my home that one of these bedrooms was for her. So, moved her down here in 2016, and she had been with me up until her passing.
Okay. So what did you have to do, or did you feel like you had to make any adjustments in regards to, you know, this shift of or this shift in your relationship, and did that shift happen immediately, or was it something that may have happened over time, where you had to walk that line of being daughter and kind of parent, and so in a very loose kind of
Right. So it was gradual, and it had more to do with her decline in health. So as she started to decline, I had to step up and do more. It went from, being able to leave the house and leaving her alone to someone always had to be with her. So
Mhm.
just that role kind of transformed over, the time that she was with me, and it mostly had everything to do with the decline in her health.
Okay. How did you balance your life with your mother's needs? Did you have to, make extreme changes, or were you still able to do those things that you were doing before she came to live with you?
So I did it. And I highly do not recommend, like 0 out of 10, do not recommend.
Okay.
Um, it was, everything was about mama. So as it should be, right? So that's
Hmm.
mama. Mama took care of me all of my life. I was grown and still needed mama. Um,
Right.
so I have no complaints about having, of taking care of her. But I will say that, you know, at especially over the last 3 years, life just kind of stood still. As far as even having to step back from my roles at church,
Hmm.
because, taking care of mama had become, well, it's always been a priority, but it had becoming more time, like I had to use more time. I mean, COVID was great in that it sent us home from the office, but it
Hmm.
also, I no longer had what I call separation of church and state. I was always on. So even though I
Right.
was working from home, mama could absolutely, call me. I could be on the phone with my boss, and I'd have to put my boss on hold while I go see what mama wanted.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Right.
so yeah, there was actually absolutely no balance. It was all mama all the time, especially over the last 3 years.
Okay. Okay. Um, if you had to write a book, because like you just said, you know, if it would have been different, right? So if you
Mhm.
had to write a book about caretaking, what would it be about? Like what would the first three chapters be about? Right now that you know what you know, what would it be about?
So, like you said, my hashtag is y'all ain't praying, and I have tons of stories, um, very funny stories of, just the bright sides, what I like to, the bright side of
Mm-hmm.
caretaking. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I would absolutely, it would be called Y'all Ain't Praying. Um, and I think just even beyond the first 3 chapters, it would be like the progression of caretaking. So, the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
the fun part, having mama all the time. Jayla had her grandma all the time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if Jayla went with her dad for a week, she had to hurry up and come home because she missed her grandma. So just the beginning
Uh-huh.
stages of just the enjoyment of having mama all the time. Me and mama would kick it. We was always out eating. We was
Mm-hmm.
always doing something. And then the middle transition, just the decline in her health and how that, changes everybody's life. And then just,
Mm-hmm.
the final days and what that looks like, and even the grief afterwards.
Right, right. Because and I that's probably one of the it can be one of the hardest parts, but praise be to God that he's who he is. So, you can depend on him for strength, and thank goodness if you need it, right? There's therapists out there. But
Right.
so how have you, if you don't mind talking about it, how have you been able to navigate that? The end, going from the highs to the midpoint to what some people may call a low, right? The end part. So
Mhm.
how are you able to move on from that, because it was a big part of your life, right? So
Mhm.
how, you have to find something to fill that space. Now, of course, we could find stuff to fill
Right.
the space, but how do you do that and stay productive, because you still have a kid that's at home too, so it's
Mhm.
still that balancing act. So how have you been able to navigate that?
Still, still navigating it, still trying to find my footing and understanding, what's next. It's still very recent. I
Hmm.
mean, to me, it feels recent to me, right? Um,
Right.
so just trying to navigate what that looks like, making sure I'm talking to a therapist, and just really, understanding what's next. And I'm not really sure that I'm there yet, but just making sure I stay busy for the most part, because I would hate to fall into, a depression or of some sort.
Hmm. Right. I totally understand what you're saying. And just the part where you said about it being recent, I think that a lot of people who have lost their parents, well, however they've lost them, it it always seems recent because
Hmm.
my
Yeah.
father, what is this? This is 2023. So now, oh my gosh, he's almost been gone for 20 years. So about 19 years or so, 17 years or so, he's been gone. My mother passed away actually 10 years ago. January this year marked 10 years. And just you can remember the things. So it always
Hmm.
seems recent, but it gets easier. People don't believe it, but it does. It doesn't mean that it doesn't, sometimes you got the little hurt. It doesn't mean that, but you can remember the good times, right? And
Right.
then, you're able to have that, to know that you had them. And like you said, your daughter was able to have her grandmother. That's one of the awesome things about it. So if you had to give someone um comfort, advice, an encouraging something, what would that be that you would tell somebody that may be in the throes of caretaking right now?
I would say taking care, and it could be whoever you're taking care of, right? But taking care of these mamas is something different, right? Like they think they grown.
I know, right?
They think they grown. They want to do whatever they want to do. They don't want to listen. They hard at it. So,
Mhm.
I would say take all of that and like just, I mean, almost like I did, diary it because you're gonna miss it when it's gone. And
Mhm.
then I would also encourage the caretaker to self care. Like that was one of the things that I failed pretty miserably at, was taking care of
Okay.
myself through all of it, right? Um, and if I had to do it all over again, I would definitely be more intentional about self care, because you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Right.
So towards the end of caretaking with mama, I was drained, exhausted. I was
Mhm.
not, I mean, I felt like I wasn't giving her my best because I didn't have anything to give. So I would absolutely encourage self care and whatever that looks like for you.
That is so good and important, especially from an empty cup. So when you're caretaking, in the throes of it, or after, however the after, comes about, do you think that having people in your life that, and not just family, because but even outside people, how what do you think that should look like for people to pour back into you? Like, what do you think maybe that is needed for people who are caretaking? Because I think, again, conversation is very important, but not just for the people that are caretaking, but for the people that know them, right? How
Mhm.
do they need to be poured back into? Like, what do you think that maybe you needed, that you weren't able to get, or even that you weren't even able to verbalize, that I need this? Hey,
Yeah.
I'm yelling here. You can't see me yelling, but I'm yelling. So what
Right.
what are
Right.
those words? What do you think that should look like, so people can be able to say, okay, that's me. I understand what she's saying, and this is how I need to present it or verbalize it, so I can get what I this thing to get myself, filled back up. What is it? What do you think they should do about that, or how should it look?
I think people fail to realize, and mostly not because they fail to realize it, but because people don't know how to ask for it. I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
really bad about asking for help, but um, preparing or having to prepare or whatever you had, whether you prepared it, bought it, whatever, 3 meals a day, 7 days a week
Mm.
is exhausting. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because prior to Mama, Jayla ate lunch at school. I ate
Right.
lunch, at work. The only meals I had to worry about was dinner and something quick
Right.
for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
But having Mama here, she had to eat 3 meals a day, and Mama didn't want just anything. So you gon' you gonna cook
Right.
um, at least several days a week. So um, taking some of that strain off of your caregiver friend or family member, just
Mm-hmm.
even just one meal a month um is a break. Is something that they didn't have to do. um
Right.
just showing up and picking up a broom and cleaning, just because we run out of energy at some point. um
Mm-hmm.
And it was times like I wish somebody would have come and, mopped the floor, because I just didn't have the energy to do it. And I can tell Jayla to do it all day
Mm-hmm.
long, but she's gonna whine and stump her feet
Right.
because she's a teenager.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
um, I mean, I think we just fail to realize that the simplest tasks that are um, automatic for the caregiver, just any way
Mm-hmm.
you search yourself into that and take some of that load off would mean the world.
That is and what you just said is true. They seem simplistic, but they're
Hmm.
not, because it's
Right.
the simple things that add up.
Yeah.
It's the simple things that you do that seem like they're mundane that make the whole thing work. So if
Hmm.
somebody would just, even if you didn't, even if you didn't ask, and I think that's the thing about people who are around individuals who do take care of their parents or however it's working. Just, you know what you do at your house, so say, hey, today I'm doing double duty, let me come over and do X, Y, and Z. And then the other part of that is being open to accept, because sometimes we don't want to accept it, because if I accept it, that means that maybe I'm failing in some part. But then, so
Right.
then we have to do the inner work with ourselves to understand it doesn't mean that you're failing, it means that you need some help. So I'm recognizing it's okay. It's
Hmm.
okay, because you don't have to be superwoman.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is, oh my gosh. So you mentioned, so you have a teenager.
Hmm.
So how did you keep your and then I'm about to ask the question, but then I just had the thought, who said that I did, but how did
Right.
you keep yourself there? Because it's one thing you're taking care of a parent who you're the child and the parent, and then you're taking care
Hmm.
of a child that you're trying to raise and put on a path that you still have to pour
Right.
into to
Right.
bring them up to at least try to be half of who you are. How did you navigate that? Like, what was that like?
So I thank God for my baby. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's a joy. She,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have the typical teenage things where she doesn't want to clean, she doesn't want to wash the dishes. I'll take that any day over an unruly
Mm-hmm.
child that I can handle, right? She's smart,
Right.
she's kind, she's helpful, um, she's funny, like, and so I've just always kept my open door policy. Basically, you can talk to me about anything, um, even as uncomfortable as it may be. So, I mean, and she used
Mm-hmm.
to come to me with. She literally would come in my room and say, "Mom, can you talk to my friend because they going through something, and I know you gonna have the right words to say." And I'm like, "Baby, I don't even."
Oh.
I don't know this friend or what they going through, but okay, yeah, I'll talk to him. And so she knows she can talk to me about anything. And she's just really been on, I mean, decided she wanted to start working, so she's working. She is hopefully going to be doing early college in the fall. She wanted to make sure she did that. So she's just a really great kid, and I'm just thankful that even through this season, she still was able to flourish.
That is so awesome. Oh my gosh, so awesome. And then I have to say that's a testament, of course, to who God is, and then also to who you are, right? Because oftentimes our kids, they listen to us by watching us
Mhm.
more
Yep.
so than they listen to what we say.
Right.
So just the way that you move, who you are and how you do that, she's a reflection of that. And that is so
Mhm.
awesome. That is beautiful and awesome. And it's good for you because that's one less thing that you had to worry about. You know what I mean?
Right.
You were
Yep.
able you were able to focus where your focus needed to be without having to, like you
Yep.
said, worry about, because she's a great kid and she is. So I have one last question for you because it's Saturday and I don't want to keep you all day. And this has been a totally awesome conversation. And we're gonna have to have another one about the book writing, but that'll be another time. And we'll talk about that. But anyway,
Okay.
so the question is this: if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
Ooh, wow. If I could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be? And so my life's philosophy has been probably for the last, I'm going to say 15 to 20 years, is to live life on purpose. And so when I say live on purpose, I mean it in absolutely the most intentional sense. Like live life intentionally. Um, you should, we absolutely cannot control everything that happens. And thank God that we can't because we probably mess it
Right.
up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but you can control how you react to it, what you learn from it. And so just be real intentional in your living. And ultimately, that living should give God the glory. And so just, living life on purpose.
That is good. Oh my gosh. I've totally enjoyed this conversation. I want to thank you again. And we'll be on the lookout for that book. Y'all ain't praying.
Right.
I don't know what the subtitle is going to be, but we'll be on the lookout for that. I'm sure it's going to be a Amazon bestseller. It'll probably be on the New York Times bestsellers list. So we'll look out for the hardback and the paperback copy of it.
Right. Right.
Thank you again so much for sharing with us today. And if there's any social media or whatever that you'd like to put, that you'd like to be out there, feel free to give it now with your book writing, whatever. Or if you'd like to wait, I can put in the description, however you want to do it.
Yeah, let's put it in the description.
We gonna put in the description. Okay, so we're gonna put it in the description. We're gonna have contact information for y'all. So again, thank you so much, Carmella, for being with us today. Y'all be sure that y'all are out here praying for Carmella and others and yourself so that you can get through life intentionally and on purpose, doing what it is that God would have you do. So, as always, thank you so much for watching the Yoni Talk podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And be blessed and have an awesome day. Thanks. Bye.